you refer to the Oath Keepers, they were the ones that went to Ferguson that was armed with the bulletproof vests when the whole thing that happened with Ferguson.
Right. So what happens is you have militia members that join the Oath Keepers, and that's where you get a lot of the military weaponry and the the dress and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the same people we're talking about.
Okay. Okay.
So before all these new movements emerged, we were primarily interested in white supremacists infiltrating law enforcement. That was like the big emphasis, to try to be aware that there are sympathizers and even members of KKK and neo-Nazi groups within police forces across the country. So from my experience working for a federal law enforcement agency, ATF, we were cognizant of that, and so we applied what's called operational security, which means you keep the investigation and its operational plans and everything close to the vest. You don't share that with the state and locals for fear that there may be a sympathizer who could tip off the extremists of the impending raid and arrest. So we were always cognizant of that. We learned from the history back in the 60s, on how so many small town police departments had KKK members that went out and lynched people.
Yeah.
And the FBI had to be called in, and the federal government and Justice Department to investigate those incidents. But these new movements, the Oath Keepers and Three Percenters, pose a very unique, new type of threat. We're not talking about people that are going to shoot up the police station, but these are people within the police force who have sworn an allegiance to an organization that goes contrary to their department's oath. And so you have this conflict on who are you going to serve and obey when it comes to one of your members being investigated. So they pose what's called an operational security threat as well as a counterintelligence threat. They could be passing information to the militias about how the police station, where the surveillance cameras are, what type of badging equipment they have, where the armory is, where the evidence locker is. So I would encourage all police departments to take a second look at Three Percenters that are among your department, as well as Oath Keepers, and look at it from a counterintelligence, insider, OPSEC threat.
That's interesting to me, because if you're an organization that says you're anti-government, yet you are being a police officer, which works for the government, you are counterintuitive to the goal of your organization. On top of the fact that you're getting paid by the taxpayers that you're supposed to be serving and protecting.
Yeah, well, nobody says that these extremist beliefs are rational or make sense, right? We found that the case for a lot of extremists that commit violent acts. They get Social Security. They depend on the government for their retirement, things like that. So some of these extremists, they're willing to work for the government, but I think they put on from perspective of, well, I'm doing this as an insider, for my organization to help them out.
Okay. Well, speaking. I wanted to ask about. We talked about media perception earlier in this conversation, and you'll hear a lot, especially from the right wing, about groups like Black Lives Matter or Antifa. Or earlier this year, we had we had the Justice Department come up with Black Identity Extremism. Is from working in the data field, isn't there a false equivalence between the left wing, far left wing extremism and far right wing extremism?
Yes, so both of these are extremists. However, there's different tactics that are being employed. And so today, the right wing extremists actually have been killing people, have been burning down places of worship, things like that.